We all need people who will give us feedback. That's how we actually improve. That's a quote from a billionaire called Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft. Collecting and implementing feedback from your clients in your agency is something which is not talked about enough in the agency space. Today, I'll be changing that, providing you with different solutions how you can automatically use your clients' feedback so you can improve their experience and decrease those high churn rates in your agency. It's 10 times more expensive to bring on a new client than it is to keep an existing one. And that's exactly why you should make your client success a top priority. And collecting constant feedback from your clients will not only give them a chance to address any problems before they develop, but will most importantly make your clients feel secure in the fact that you genuinely care about providing the best results you can. We take client success as a main priority in everything we do, and without having the systems I'll show you in this video to automatically collect and implement this client feedback, Fluxomate will not be where we are now. Let's get straight into how to create the perfect feedback loop for your clients. Alright guys, so before I go into showing you different automations to actually collect feedback and implement it, literally going over a live automation build, there's something very important we need to talk about, and that's actually setting up the correct foundations for collecting feedback within your agency. Now, in all honesty, this is something that I didn't value personally until I finished getting through this book, Battle Time by Dan Mortel. I've mentioned this book a couple of times on the channel. It's just a great read, and it's got so many golden nuggets within it. But one of the things that he mentions is the F word that will actually save your business. And no, I'm not talking about fuck. I'm obviously talking about feedback. If you actually encourage issues to service within your agency, it will save you a lot of energy and time in the long run, because you can address those problems before they even get started. And the best way to actually show you how this works and explain it to you properly is using an analogy that Dan uses in the book with traffic. Everyone hates traffic, right? But how does traffic actually work? So let's say you have a highway and each problem is one car. If the cars are going at a steady speed with no traffic, everything's good. But why is that happening? Well, as long as some of the cars are constantly exiting, then it's not an issue. You can keep up the speed and there'll be no traffic. When it becomes an issue is when no cars are exiting and more cars are entering the freeway, which causes you to slow down because of traffic and eventually come to a full stop. Obviously, this is bad. We do not want this. And if we take each problem as a car, you can start to see the importance of collecting and implementing feedback so you can solve these problems straight away and clear up the freeway for the rest of the cars. Now that you understand the actual importance of collecting and using feedback within your agency, I want to share the clear framework that Dan talks about in the book as the perfect model for actually creating feedback in your company. So, CLEAR stands for create, lead, emphasize, ask, and respond. For create, all you want to do is create a warm atmosphere for feedback. The way you actually do that is you firstly want to ask for any form of positive feedback. People find it a lot easier to say positive things rather than negative things, especially in a one-to-one scenario, as a lot of people are scared of confrontation. Once they've opened up about something positive about yourself, you go ahead and you ask them, think of one negative thing. Not to say out loud, just to think about it. Once again, all you're doing here is creating a warm atmosphere. When you've given them a second to think about it, you want to move to the second stage, which is actually lead. Here, you're going to want to ask them to share their negative feedback. But a very important part here is to actually mention why you want the negative feedback and how it's actually going to help you. So for example, you could say something along the lines of, would you mind sharing the negative feedback now? The only reason I'm asking is because it is super valuable for me and allows me to provide you with a better experience. See how I just told them my goal as to why I want their feedback and how I'm going to use it to actually improve. As they're explaining their feedback, you want to move on to the third step, which is actually emphasize. Here you want to take in their feedback and just listen to it. When they're done saying what they have to say, make sure you repeat back what they just said in your own words. That may let them know you got it. And make sure you ask them if you understood it correctly. Once that's done, ask for more. Guys, a lot when it comes to feedback, especially negative side of things, people will usually get started but won't reveal the whole script. But once they get that foot in the door, it's very easy for them to continue saying other things that's been on their minds, which they might have been previously too scared to say in order to avoid confrontation. Humans hate confrontation. But hopefully this framework will help you break it down and collect the correct feedback. And lastly, you want to respond. And there's two different things you can do here. You can either reject the feedback or accept the feedback. Firstly, you obviously want to thank them in either case for their feedback and encourage how valuable that is. So in the future, they're more likely to do that again. If you accept the feedback, then straight away, let them know of a plan you'll make to actually implement that feedback so they know it's valued. This framework is obviously best carried out in a one-on-one scenario. I don't think it'll be nearly as powerful in a group setting. And in the book, Dan mainly talks about using this to employees, which I 100% recommend. But we apply the exact same thing to clients, and so far it's been working amazing for us. So you can follow this framework when collecting feedback from your clients or employees. It doesn't really matter. This was just a summary of what he said. Really recommend you check out his book, read the whole thing because it's a 10 out of 10 book. I recommend it to every single one of my clients. So now that we set up the correct foundations to actually collect feedback from our clients, it's time to actually set up different ways to actually collect it. Now, here there's two options of things you can do. You can either do it manually or automate it. And I want to explain each one because it does change slightly. First, we have the manual way. Now, this is basically on any of your touch points, such as a success call or a catch-up call. You have your customer success manager, the project manager, or whoever's talking to the client towards the end of the call, ask the client a couple questions on a form, and as they respond, fill out the form. It's super simple, and it's just questions to get understanding of how the client is doing. And once again, creating a way to collect that feedback from them using a framework we just talked about a second ago. The good thing about this is that it's one-to-one, so obviously you get to build that relationship. If you haven't already collected feedback from your clients in any way, then I'll tell you right now, it's a great opportunity to actually build a relationship above that superficial aspect, because you do get a chance to get a lot closer to your clients and gain their trust. Second benefit of doing it manually is that you have 100% completion rate. Now, what I mean by that is that in the automation side of things, you're likely not going to get everyone completing the form. However, because you're asking these questions at the end of the call, it's not like they're just going to hang up on you. They're going to answer the questions. So you're going to get 100% completion rate on all the feedback you're trying to collect. And lastly, if the feedback is positive, you'll also get a video testimonial, which is great for your social media or even for any marketing. The only disadvantage of doing it manually one-to-one is the pressure. Certain personality types might not be completely open to sharing feedback, so you need to keep that into account. Even though you perfect the framework I showed you earlier, some people might be reluctant to give any negative feedback one-to-one as they might be scared of confrontation. So you need to keep that in mind. The second way to do it is to automate it. Now the automation will look something like this. On a regular schedule, you basically send out an email with a link to a form, asking them to fill out the form. Then they press the link and they go to a form like Typeform or Google Form, and then they enter the feedback themselves. A very important thing that you need to do here is create some sort of incentive for them to complete the feedback. From my experience anyways, it's not enough to say, oh, can you please complete this form for feedback to help us improve your experience. You can offer things like Amazon gift cards, a coaching call of some sort, unlock a specific part of a service, or just even give them a discount off their monthly retainer for completing that form. You guys obviously know your clients better than I do. So if you were to do it automatically, you need to create a good incentive for them to actually complete a form on a regular basis. This is also another chance to exhibit goodwill, which will obviously enhance your relationship with your client. So think about this carefully. The better the incentive is, the better feedback you'll get on a consistent basis. Doing it automatically has some benefits, but it also has some disadvantages. The first thing is that it's automated, so it's always going to happen. And obviously, it's not going to take up any of your CS's times. But secondly, there's no pressure when completing the form. They're not confronted in any way, so they might be more likely to share their true thoughts. The disadvantages, however, are quite obvious. Firstly, you have lower completion. Even if you have the best incentive ever, not everyone will get around the emails to actually complete the form, and they might just forget about it. Secondly, is no one-to-one touch point. Obviously, this is very important. When the agency business, it's all about building these relationships. Collecting it manually inhibits us from having an extra touch point and building that relationship by sharing feedback with each other. And lastly, is no video review. Now, obviously, you can use the text reviews if they say something positive, but as everyone knows here, video reviews are so much more powerful, and you don't get a chance to actually collect those if you do it automatically over a form. Both of these ways of collecting feedback are extremely valuable, and personally, I would recommend using a mixture of both. Towards the start of a relationship, I would stick to manual, where your client is really learning to trust you and get an understanding of your relationship. But let's say 3 months into your relationship, you can switch over to automated feedback, still incorporating a manual feedback once in a while if you notice them not answering their forms or not really giving in-depth feedback. Whichever one you choose, it does not matter. There's two things that won't change. The first thing is the cadence, which is basically how often this happens. I would recommend doing it anywhere between once a week and twice a quarter. Anything more than once a week, you're going to be spamming them and it's going to be annoying. Anything less than twice a quarter, you might as well not do it. A lot of changes in a month, and you need to be on top of your client success. For me, the perfect spot is either twice a month or once a month. And this just depends on how fast things move within your service. So for example, if you're running ads, the more you do this is better because there's a lot of changing things. But if you're doing something like building infrastructures, then you might not need that many touch points. I just want to update, so once a month will be more than fine. Like I said earlier, guys, you know your clients better than I do. Figure out the perfect number of touch points you need to actually collect this feedback. The second thing that won't change is the back end. How this is going to work? Every single time they fill out a form, whether it's them or your client success managers live on a call, we're going to add it to a database, which is basically just a storage room. You can use anything for this. You can use Airtable, even Notion, or just a Google Drive folder with Google Drive documents for each of the responses. All this is the storage space We're going to store all that feedback, which we can review and use in different automations in the next stage. Bonus points if you find a way to link this storage to your client portals, so you can keep a track of all of the feedback coming from your specific clients, and they can also log in and see all the feedback you're tracking and how you're implementing it. Once again, this will just boost that trust that they have for you, and also makes your life easier because you can look at the feedback over time and see how it's improving or worsening depending on different outputs of your service. Bonus points if you managed to do that. So guys, we've gone over setting up the correct foundations for collecting your feedback, how to actually collect your feedback, giving you two different options, whether you want to do it manually or automated. Now I want to talk about how to actually implement the feedback. Specifically here, I'm not going to be talking about the general ways to actually implement feedback or anything like that. I'm going to be showing you automation that actually allows you to collect each response, summarize it, come up with an action plan, and then send a Slack message to your customer success manager or project manager with the actual steps that I need to do to improve that client's experience. We're obviously going to use AI for this, but this is an extremely useful automation that we use in all of our partners' agencies. So let's get straight into this live build. I've already explained it briefly, but I want to take a second to go through this so you can understand exactly what I mean. The trigger for this automation is going to be a collection response. So either your client success manager or your customer completes the form. Once that's done, we're going to send all that information over to ChatGPT. I'm going to ask it to summarize what we just got and then give us an action plan on how we can actually improve that client's experience based on their pain points. We're going to send an action plan and a summary to the Slack message. Then we're going to create a task for the client success manager to actually follow that action plan to improve that client's experience. It's a super simple automation, but it's extremely powerful. So let's get into the live build. First thing you want to do is select a no-code automation tool. Now you can use Zapier or Make, it doesn't really matter. Zapier is a bit more beginner friendly, which is why we usually use it for our tutorials. However, you can do a bit more with Make, and I think it's relatively cheaper. Both of them have 14-day free trials, so sign up to each one, test it out, and choose your favorite. Guys, one thing I forgot to say, the first step of this whole thing is actually creating a form. I've made this example. It's quite generic questions. I wouldn't recommend copying these because I didn't really put much thought into it. But this is just an example of some of the questions you should be asking. So how satisfied are you with your services? And just a general format of the form. This is what we're going to be asking either live on a call or getting our clients to fill in. And this is the questionnaire that we're going to be inputting within the automation. So I'm just going to quickly complete this just to give you an example of what this looks like. All right, so I've just submitted a form. Now this is rather positive. So it'll be interesting to see what solutions ChatGPT comes up with when we build the automation. All right, so now that we're in Zapier, as always, we're going to start with the trigger. And for this is going to be a completion of a form. Now for this example, we're going to use Google Form. But guys, like I say with everything else, it doesn't really matter. Whether you're using Google Form or Typeform, you can just copy exactly what I'm doing and apply it to your specific application. So the event is going to be a new form response. I'm going to continue. I'm going to choose your account. Then you're going to find your form, which for us was a client questionnaire. We're going to press continue. I'm going to test for any responses. As you can see, we have that response we literally just did a second ago. So we're going to continue with the selected record. The next step is actually inputting all of the data into ChatGPT. So for this, we're going to search for ChatGPT. And for event, we're going to use conversation. Now, if you're doing this properly, I'll recommend creating a system first on OpenAI, which specializes in understanding your clients and getting feedback from them, and then selecting conversation with the system. You'll get 10 times better results. But just to keep this example as simple as possible, I'm going to stick with conversation. Obviously, going to connect your account. Now we're going to input our messages. Now, the first thing I want to do without even prompting, I'm going to submit all that information from the form to give the AI as much information from their feedback as possible. So I'm just going to speed through this as I go through it. All right, guys. So as you can see, I basically just inputted all the questions and the responses just to give all the information from the form. And now I'm going to actually start setting about prompting. Now, this is not a prompting masterclass, so do not copy what I'm about to say here. So guys, here I just put a super simple prompt. All I'm telling AI is that this is the feedback that a client has submitted from my agency, and asking it to summarize the feedback and come with the action plan that will actually improve their experience. Now, we can test this out before we launch automation. So let's go ahead and test that to get understanding of what sort of response we're going to get from this and if it's appropriate. So here's our actual message, and it's the output we get. So first we get a summary, which is a bit long, but it's all right. And this is the action plan now to actually improve it. You know what? It looks good. I'm happy with this. So let's move on to the next step, which is actually sending this over to Slack. Now, guys, if you're doing this properly, I would recommend collecting your client's email on the form so you can automatically share it to that specific client success manager as in your CRM. I'm going to keep it simple. All I'm going to do is send it to some sort of feedback channel. So we're going to go to Slack. We're going to choose send channel message. Press continue. We're going to choose a channel, which if you were doing this, I would do some sort of feedback channel. But just to keep it simple, we're going to use our testing channel that we use for all of our stuff on YouTube. And for the message request, all we're going to do is feedback 3. Then all we're going to do is enter that conversation from ChatGPT as a reply. I want to send this as a bot. I'm going to put feedback bot. And that is it, guys. Press continue. I'm actually going to test it. So now if you head back over to Slack, you see right there we have the summary of the feedback and the action plan on how to actually improve it from our feedback bot. So now we can move to the next step, which is actually creating a task within our system. Once again, guys, if you're doing this properly, you have to collect the email within the form of your client so you can find a way to link it to the client portal so you can actually upload this, like I told you earlier, to a storage and track it over time. Let's go ahead and create a task within our task database, which is hosted in SmartSuite just for this example. We want to go ahead and create a new record because it will create a new task. And for this one, press continue, continue. So all down here, select the Pixel Spark backend, which is the case study we use in this example, and the task database. Task name, we're going to put implement feedback. And then we're going to scroll down. You can set a due date if you want to, but the main thing we want to do is add that feedback that we entered. So if you scroll all the way down to script, we want to enter that reply here from ChatGPT, and then we want to go ahead and create the task. And now if we go over to our task system, as an admin, I go to all tasks. See, we have a task right here called implement feedback. And here we have that summary of the feedback as well as the action steps to actually improve it. Now, once again, I'm going to have to repeat myself, but if you're doing this properly, you'd have to collect the email, search within your CRM, find a certain project and upload it to the specific project task. This will allow you to link this task to a specific project to actively show them how you're using their feedback and implementing it to give them a better experience. It also will allow you to do things such as find a specific project manager and instead of sending a channel message, send a DM to that specific success manager on Slack as assigned to the actual client. Just to keep this video as simple as possible, we didn't do that today. If you go through that, all you'd have to do is add the email to the form, add a search step at the start to find your client in a CRM and the relevant project. And then when you create the task, different fields such as assigned team member, client, project, that will allow you to link this task to the project so you can collect the feedback all in one spot. And that's pretty much it, guys. We've now gone over how to set up the correct foundations to actually collect feedback using the Clear framework, different ways you can collect feedback using automation or doing it manually, and how to actually implement that feedback using a quick automation example that we build live on a video. Feedback is an extremely part of your agency. And I say this all the time, one of the most beautiful things about owning an agency is having those long-term relationships with your clients. However, this is also one of the hardest things because they take time to nurture, maintain, actually build that connection with your clients. Feedback is one of the ways that you can streamline that and do it properly. Because as you know, once you've got that long-term relationship with your client, it's beneficial for both of you. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. I've got a little bonus for you guys who've watched until the end. If you want access to this 20+ page document that has specific examples of how you can optimize your onboarding process based on your specific pain points and processes, optimize your client journey, and give you 5 different automation examples with step-by-step setup guides based on your specific problems. All you have to do is check out the first link in the description and fill out the short 4-minute survey. As with everything else we do, it's 100% free and it's an extremely valuable lead magnet that we've got, showing you the real insights, how you can set up a scale-proof agency based on your specific circumstances. And lastly, if you want to save $100 a month with a scalable system that will allow you to take on more clients without ruining your service delivery or profit margins, you can check out the second link in the description to access our free training, going over exactly what it is that we do. We had a lot of people messaging us on Instagram asking us what we did exactly, so we put together this free training for you guys so you can get an understanding. I will say that this is not for everyone, so if you're not at that point where you have to optimize your operations, which is usually above that 30k a month spot, then I would not recommend signing up to this because you won't get the most value from it. But don't worry, if that's not you, please make sure to keep on consuming all of our free resources that we're putting together. And all of these videos are posted because I guarantee there's no one else in the space dropping this much value and giving you guys the real insights on how you can set up a scale-proof agency with the correct foundations. That's it from me today, guys. If I rushed through anything, I apologize. Please do drop a comment. I'm more than happy to share some more clarity on any topics I talked about today, whether it's the foundations, actually collecting other feedback, or even implementing that automation. You guys are a really good spot right now because we're a very small channel. So if you drop a comment, we're 100% going to see it and give you an in-depth response. So any questions, feel free to drop them below. Don't be shy. Thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure recording this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.